It's almost like our brains are these never-ending thinking machines. Oh, wait, I guess they are. Which is not a bad thing if the things our brains are thinking about is how to create world peace, or how to end world hunger, or how to cure cancer. But not super helpful when our brains are thinking about all the terrible things that could happen or might happen, or all the terrible things that did happen, or things that people might be thinking about us that we don't want them to be thinking about us, or things that people could think about us that we don't want them to think about us. When our brains go into having these intrusive, invasive, or even obsessive thoughts that leave us feeling all kinds of terrible, it is not so helpful. So today we're going to talk about how to stop these intrusive or invasive or even kind of obsessive thoughts that many among us struggle with. And I know that many among us struggle with them because I've talked to many of you who are members of the Shift Society. I've had clients, I have friends, I know human beings, and I know the way the human brain works. And chances are, if you have a human brain, then at least sometimes it overthinks about things to the point that leaves you feeling really frustrated or really down or defeated or worried or anxious or all of the above. So I'm going to talk to you today about some strategies to help you stop that so that you can feel more calm and at peace and grounded and confident and present, or however it is that you want to be feeling. If you're new here, welcome to our amazing little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. If you are back again, it is always good to have you here. If you are a shifter, make sure you identify yourself in the comment section below. Love seeing my shifters show up in the comments. It's so great. If you haven't already, if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already as well. That just helps YouTube be able to put this free content in front of more people so we can get more people giving the tools to help them manage their minds and emotions. Either way, my name is Kristina. I'm a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, the creator of my membership community, the Shift Society, that you can get more information about in the comment section below. I help heart-centered humans break through the crap that is holding them back so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And having intrusive and invasive thoughts really can hold us back, especially if we're getting stuck in them, or those thoughts are keeping us stuck. We are not going and doing things. We are not living our lives. We are not participating or being present because we are so stuck in our heads. So at first I want to talk about the different kinds of intrusive thoughts that most people struggle with. So typically, when it comes to intrusive thoughts, we are either thinking about things from the past or we are thinking about things in the future. When it comes to the things we are thinking about in the past, the intrusive thoughts that come up about the past, often they're around something bad that has happened, or something bad that we have done, something that we feel shame around, either that we've done or that has been done to us, something difficult or uncomfortable or painful that we have experienced, and then our brain continues to bring up thoughts in the present about that thing that happened. It can often become like obsessive thoughts or just invasive thoughts that can pull us away from the present if we're thinking about these things from the past. And it can be pretty relentless sometimes, depending on where you're at in your healing process. The other thing that our brain likes to obsess and think about are not things that actually happened, but things that we think other people might be thinking. And that's where it gets kind of complex. We are thinking about things that other people could be thinking, but not actually thinking about things that we know for sure. And this comes up with a lot of us, many among us who struggle with social anxiety, who struggle with shame, just like that core shame of not feeling good enough, really worrying about being rejected, left behind, unlovable, unworthy. If we have sort of those core shame beliefs, then you're going to really struggle a lot more with, thinking about what other people might have been thinking about you in any given circumstance. If you struggle with your relationship with yourself, if you don't feel solid in who you are, then your sense of self is going to be a lot more dependent on what other people are thinking, or even just like we're talking about, might be thinking. So how this shows up is if you are in a work meeting and maybe you're in person or you've got your little Zoom meeting on and you're sitting there and you're presenting and you're talking away and you're talking about whatever it is, you're part of the presentation, and you see a couple people that are sitting there on their Zoom cameras with kind of like these sort of, unexpressive faces, or maybe even they're kind of frowning a little bit, or they're kind of distracted, they're not really paying attention, or they look really bored, or they look annoyed, or whatever your interpretation of what they are looking like. And then afterwards, after you give your presentation, you're kind of bombarded with these obsessive thoughts around, oh my gosh, that wasn't any good. I failed. I did terribly. People weren't interested. People didn't care. People weren't engaged. I made such a fool of myself, or whatever those thoughts are. You start to assume what other people are thinking about you without any hard evidence, unless somebody said that presentation sucked. You don't know for sure what they're thinking. And again, that's just their thought. That doesn't necessarily mean the presentation sucked. It means that they think that it sucked, but one human's opinion is not sort of like the ultimate authority of the universe. Just saying. We'll get more into that in just a minute. Or if you're at like a social gathering and you feel sort of awkward and uncomfortable when you first go in, especially if you don't know very many people, which, by the way, is probably one of the most normal human experiences. I'm a pretty confident person. I'm pretty self-assured. I should hope so, after doing this work for enough time, and really just engaging in what I teach. But there'll still be times when I go into a group gathering when it's a bunch of people that I don't really know, and feel kind of a little bit apprehensive, a little bit awkward, a little bit like, okay, who am I going to talk to? Or who's going to be a person that I can kind of strike up a conversation with, so I'm not just standing here, kind of half smiling, looking like I feel comfortable when I kind of don't. But that's just sort of a normal thing. But then there are some people who struggle with it a lot more and feel really awkward and uncomfortable in social situations. Maybe even if it is with people they know, maybe even if it is with good friends. And then you have a conversation, you're kind of chatting away, and then afterwards you leave that social event, the party, the dinner gathering, whatever it is, and you go away and you start obsessively thinking, having all these intrusive thoughts around, oh my gosh, what if I said that the wrong way? I hope they didn't take that the wrong way. What if that sounded weird? What if that sounded too needy? What if that made me look kind of insecure, even though I am? But I don't want people to think that, but now I'm thinking that they're thinking that, which means that I don't know what I'm thinking. And you just go round and around in your head about stuff like what people might be thinking about you based on what you might have said that might have, hit them the wrong way, or, it's just all of this. And I know this to be true because I used to really struggle with this, even sometimes with good friends where I'd come away, depending on the friend for sure. But I had a few friends that I often felt a little bit uneasy with because I couldn't read them very well. And so because I couldn't read them, instead of my brain going to, they probably thought everything was fine. They probably thought you were fine. They're probably not thinking about you or, mad at you or judging you because they're friends with you. So why would they be doing that? And they continue to want to spend time with you, so they're probably okay with you. No, my brain didn't go to that. It went to, oh my gosh, they probably think I'm an idiot. They probably think I'm a loser. They probably think I shared too much. They probably think I said something weird. And it would just go there when we don't even know for sure. So those are the two types of intrusive thoughts, or sort of ruminating thoughts, that can come up around things in the past. And then, of course, we're going to move to the future. Moving to talk about invasive or intrusive thoughts about the future, about what could happen, what might happen. Even if there's a very tiny possibility that this thing could happen, our brain likes to glob onto that tiny little possibility and turn it into something massive that we stress and obsess and get anxious and worried and panicked about, without even knowing for sure if that thing is going to happen. And again, this could be around similar situation that you have a presentation at work, you're going into a meeting, you have to lead part of it, and you're like, I'm going to look like an idiot, I'm going to look like a fool, I'm going to fumble my words, everyone's going to know that I'm nervous, I'm probably going to make a mess of the whole thing, the presentation isn't until Friday, and on Monday you're already starting to dread it. Or if it's just about the state of the world in general. If you're like, oh, there's these things happening in these countries, which means that we're all doomed and there's no hope, and I'm just going to sit at home and fret and worry and stress and obsess and, doom scroll on social media and doom watch all of the news that's just there anyways to provoke human emotion and oftentimes sensationalizes things to provoke fear, because there's something weird in our human brains that we're like addicted to fear. And so we keep watching it if brings up strong emotions, right? Which is so interesting about media, is they are there to kind of poke at our emotions, to poke at our vulnerabilities. Not saying that it's all fake and that there's not bad things that happen in the world, but they're often presented in ways to evoke strong emotion, because human brains, as much as you don't want to admit it, often human brains like drama, or are at least drawn to drama. Even if we don't enjoy the drama, we are drawn to drama. We are often drawn to things that invoke fear in us in a way to be able to prepare ourselves for danger, right? So if our brain can kind of see where all the threat lies and where all the danger is, then it thinks that it can plan and prepare in order to protect us. But again, oftentimes it's sensationalized. There's language that's used to kind of poke and provoke that brings up even more than what is necessary. But that's what sells. So that's what happens. So just really looking at that, about these invasive and intrusive thoughts about things that maybe might or could happen in the future. And again, you never know for sure what is going to happen in the future because you can't experience the future. You can only anticipate the future in your thoughts. It's the same thing with the past. You cannot experience the past other than in your thoughts. And so here we want to work on our thoughts, work on changing our relationship with our thoughts. And this is exactly what we dive really deeply into in the Shift Society, in my membership community. We completely transform our relationship with our human thoughts. You can get more information about the Shift Society in the description. We open up registration every once in a while, so make sure that if you get on the wait list, watch your inbox for when you get notification to register, because you want to be able to get in there, because it is a life-transforming program. I get messages from people all the time that were like, yeah, I thought your YouTube videos were really helpful, and they kind of like started to prime my brain and pave the way, but then I joined the Shift Society and everything changed. And a lot of people have said, I wish I knew this stuff sooner. But the good news is you can know it now. And so 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you don't have to be like, I wish that I knew this stuff sooner, because you already do. So make sure you get on the wait list for the Shift Society. But let's talk about a few things that you can do now to just start making some of those shifts in changing your relationship with your thoughts. And the first one is, like I just talked about, recognizing that the only way to experience the past or the future is in our thoughts. That's the only way that we can experience those things. We can't experience the past or the future in this present moment. The only thing we can experience in this moment is the present. And so really being able to look at and observe our thoughts and almost unattach ourselves from our thoughts by just being able to say, oh, this is a thought. This isn't an actual corporal experience that I'm having in this moment. This isn't a here and now experience. This is an in here experience. And being able to just say to yourself, I notice I'm having the thought that this is a thought. This is a thought. This is not necessarily a truth or a fact. This is a thought. And even if it is a truth or a fact, it's not necessarily helpful to allow my brain to keep going over and over it. It is a thought. And although I don't always have control over the thoughts that come into my mind, I can always choose what to do with them when they do come in. So being able to just create that separation and notice what that feels like, whatever thought you're thinking right now that's kind of making you feel some kind of way that you're not into, being able to just take that thought and look at it and say, I notice I'm having the thought that blah, blah, blah. that I'm not good enough, that things aren't going to work out, that we're all doomed, or, whatever that is. Or, that because this person rejected me, that means that I'm a reject from now on until kingdom come, whatever. I notice I'm having the thought that. Which leads nicely into the next one. And this one is to just be able to call out the intrusive thought as an intrusive thought. So if you imagine that, like, this is me, and this is these intrusive thoughts that are coming in and trying to mess with me. So I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker of my thoughts. I am the being thinking my thoughts. These are my thoughts. This is me. These are the thoughts that are coming in. And often they are unhelpful thoughts. So just being able to separate yourself and say, this is the thought that is coming in. This is an intrusive thought that is coming in. This is something my brain is kind of globbing to throw me off my game, to make me feel uneasy, to make me feel scared, to make me feel anxious, to make me feel sad, to make me feel shame, whatever that is. My brain is just grabbing onto these thoughts. But I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker of my thoughts. This is just an intrusive thought. Here we go. Here's me. Here's my intrusive thought. It's just my intrusive thought coming in and trying to mess things up, but I don't have to let it. The next one that we're going to do to deal with these intrusive thoughts is to dispute the thought. Now, this is a little bit more of a complex process, and there's a lot of questions you can ask yourself. There's a lot of methods you can use to kind of dispute these thoughts. And we do go into them in depth in the Shift Society, but just sort of briefly to kind of wet your toes in it. Is that the saying? You guys all know that I mess up my little sayings and metaphors and idioms all the time, but you're not here for my great metaphors. You're just here for the great content. And so being able to dispute your thoughts can look like just being able to say, okay, is this 100% true 100% of the time? So if I'm having the thought that I am unlovable, right? Because maybe my friend didn't text me back, or I found out that some, people that I know went out and they didn't invite me, or I had a fight with my mom over dinner or something like this. And your brain goes into I'm unlovable. Right? I am completely unlovable. And our brain likes to do this sort of black and white, all or nothing thinking. I had one upsetting incident that hurt my feelings, that happened with another human being. And now the truth of the universe is that I am completely unlovable forever and ever. Amen. And being able to take a step back and say, wait a second, brain. Okay. So I'm having a lot of big feelings right now because I'm having a lot of big thoughts right now. But do those thoughts need to be quite so extreme? Can we just take a step back and ask ourselves, is it true that this one hurtful or upsetting incident with this one person or this small group of people, that this is going to dictate my lovability from here on out? Is it possible that there's other people in my life who do love me? Even if it's my dog. But I'm going to guarantee that there are other people in your life that if you thought about it, you're like, okay, yeah, this person actually does love me. And probably these people who this situation happened with, they probably love me too. We're just having a moment. We're just having an issue come up that we need to resolve. But chances are their love has not gone away forever because we had this one issue. And even if it has, there are other people who do love me. So is it true then that I am 100% unlovable from here on out? The answer is no, because I've just disputed that. And I have kind of pulled apart this big overarching statement and found that there's some flaws in it. I've looked at it more closely. I've peeled it back and realized, okay, this is not a truth. This is a thought. The next little exercise to do is it's something we do a lot in the Shift Society, and it's from Brené Brown's work. You all know how much I love Brené Brown and her work, and she calls it the SFD. So I don't know if I can swear on here. I just never really have. The SHITTY first draft, or we'll call it the sucky first draft. And so this is when you are having these thoughts go through your head. You just sit down and you write them all out. It's like a brain dump. You just dump it all out of your brain. And doing this exercise, if you've ever done it, you know how well this works. If you haven't done it, then do it. is just getting all the thoughts out of your brain. And when you kind of take a step back and look at those thoughts, you have a different experience than just thinking them. When your brain can kind of see on paper what's going through your mind, it's almost like you're hearing from someone else their experience, and you're having that kind of same experience, hearing their experience. So if you have a friend that you're like, oh, this person rejected me, I'm unlovable, or that, it means that I'm completely unlovable, or they're like, oh, like I did this presentation and it wasn't perfect, so everyone was judging me and everyone thought I sucked. Or they're like, okay, I've got this thing coming up and I'm probably going to blow it. It's probably going to fail. Or, this thing happened to me in my past that means that I am a horrible human being and, I am unworthy, right? Like, and you'd kind of hear your friend saying that and you'd be like, huh? What? What are you talking about? That just seems a little far-fetched. That just seems like a lot right now. That just seems really not true. You're kind of getting caught up in your own self and not sort of seeing the trees through the forest. You're feeling some kind of way. And so your brain is kind of going crazy about all of these things. Your brain is going overboard with all of this stuff, but we know that that's not true, right? And so that's more of the experience that you have when you write things down on this, what I say, sucky first draft, where you just get all of those thoughts out. And you see how untrue so many of them are. When you have this different experience of them, when you're like, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, everyone's judging me, nothing good is ever going to happen, everything is terrible, everything is going to happen that's terrible. And you kind of look at it and you're like, huh? Well, that seems like a bit much, don't you think? And so when you see it on paper, you can have that different experience with it, separating yourself from those thoughts. And then further to that, if you are going to write things down that your brain is feeding you, that are creating all kinds of worry or fear or shame or panic or upset or hurt, and from the exercises that you've been doing so far through this talk, you're starting to see that many of them are not true, not helpful, not ones that you're going to kind of keep around, then after you've written them down, take that piece of paper and rip it up, crumple it up, rip it up, spit on it, throw it in the fire. I mean, don't light it on fire because you don't want to start a fire in your home. But if you have a fireplace, if you live, off in the country on an acreage or something and have a beautiful fireplace, or you just, like a real fireplace, because I'm not know too many people in the city that have wood burning fireplaces in this day and age. But if you live in an old craftsman house and have some of the original features in there, including a wood burning fireplace, throw it in the fire. If you want to put it in the garbage can and pour water on it, do that. But just as this symbolic way of just, disposing, right? Like literally disposing of these thoughts. Realizing that just because you have been thinking them, it doesn't mean you need to keep thinking them. And you can ask yourself if you even want to keep thinking them. Come and get on the wait list for the Shift Society. We do so much work around thoughts in there because our thoughts create our emotions. Our emotions drive our thoughts create our emotions drive our behaviors, and our behaviors or actions create our outcomes in our lives. So literally, if you change your thoughts, your beliefs, the way you think, the way you've been programmed or trained to think, you change those thoughts. You change your life. Come and join us in this Shift Society. There's a lot more to it than just, trying to think positive, because you all know that doesn't work and it's not sustainable. It's not realistic. But yeah, we deep dive into what this is all about in there. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for registration to open, get my 10-minute guided mindfulness exercise. That is free. It's in the description below. That one is so great for helping you just learn to unattach from your thoughts, being able to just not get pulled into your thoughts, and that actually stops the obsessive ruminating when you are practicing mindfulness. And this exercise is a really, really great way to get going on that process. Get that one, it's in the description. Let me know, what did you get from this? What did you find helpful? What connected with you? Would love to hear in the comment section below. And as always, it is so good to have you here. Until next time, take good care.